Hey guys, Kangaskid18 here, and did you know that Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire came out in Japan almost 15 years ago? There have been a lot of changes since then, so today we're gonna look at 10 Generation 3 Pokemon that at one time or another changed their shiny coloration. First up on our list today is the Kickin' Chicken Combusken. Now back in Gen 3, Combusken had a really cool shiny. It turned a deep red color underneath, while the yellow upper parts turned very pale. I love this shiny, and it's a real shame that it didn't stay like this for long. Over time, the deep red became lighter and paler, until by Generation 6, the shiny is totally unrecognizable. Really more of a dull orange underneath, with the yellow not changing at all. Interestingly, the one thing that stayed the same through the generations is the colors of its eyes. For some reason, that's the one reminder we have left of what used to be a great shiny. Up next, we've got the number 2 spot on our list, Whismur. Whismur's shiny has changed over time in a very similar fashion to Combusken. Back in Gen 3, Whismur's shiny turned a bright bubblegum pink color, with bright sea green on the ears and feet. And again, the color has turned lighter and duller over time, until by Gen 6, Whismur has turned a dull lavender, and the green doesn't quite pop as much as it once did. And while I think the old bright pink color looked awful, it's still preferable to a shiny that barely changes from its normal colors. Moving on, we've got the number 3 spot and one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, the Dark Ghost type Sableye. Sableye's had more or less the same shiny since Gen 4, a deep gold color with golden gems for its eyes. But back in Gen 3, it looked radically different, a dark rusty bronze color with bright orange eyes, and honestly, I'm not sure which shiny looks better. Truth be told, I think that both shinies are kinda cool in their own way. Which brings us to the number 4 spot on the list today, and kind of a 2-for-1. It's Gulpin and Swalot. I've combined them here since both shinies had pretty much the same colors, and therefore the same changes. Ever since Gen 3, Gulpin and Swalot both turned a nice blue color, with bright reddish-orange highlights, in Grubbin's case on its head quill, and for Swalot on its mustache. But then Gen 6 came along, and all the blues turned lighter, and the highlights kind of turned this disappointing yellow color. It's kind of a minor change, but it's too bad they didn't keep the cool colors they once had. Next up, we've got our number 5 spot, the apparently camel Pokemon Numel. Numel's had some shiny changes over the years, but they're overall pretty subtle. Back in Gen 3, Numel kind of turned a dull orange color with a bright blue hump, but from Gens 4 to 5, shiny Numel turned a pale tan overall, while the hump stayed pretty much the same. And then in Gen 6, the color shifted once again, slightly darker than before, but this time the hump turns a pale blue, which honestly still looks pretty good, so I'm not too upset with these shiny changes. Moving on, we've got the number 6 spot on our list, Seviper. Seviper is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, and it's got a great shiny. Everything turns these bright neon colors, and the mouth, fangs, eyes, and tail axe all turn a cool shade of blue. Wait, did this thing have a blue mouth? Crap, this is gonna be shiny Arbok all over again, where it had this really cool blue mouth in every game until Black 2 and White 2, and all of a sudden, it disappeared. So, let's check out Seviper's Black 2 sprite. Ah, dang, can't tell. Okay, what if I pause it mid-animation? Ooh, okay, blue tongue, that's good. I mean, it's not like Game Freak would arbitrarily change the color of its mouth for Gen 6. That would just be, oh, son of a... Alright, well, moving on from that disappointment, we've got the number 7 spot on our list today, Armaldo. Armaldo's one of those Pokemon that's had more or less the same shiny for a long time, with one major difference. So in Gen 5, Armaldo turned the pale red color it's always been, with dark red highlights. And in Gen 6, it stayed pretty much the same, but the highlights turned a much duller color. Alright, now we got that out of the way, let's get on to the major change, and one that's really more of an overall design change. So in Gens 3 and 4, Armaldo's sprite had a dark colored chest plate. That part turned a bright red color, which looks amazing, and removing this in later generations doesn't make much sense, and both the Pokemon and its shiny are worse off for it. Up next, we've got the number 8 spot on our list, and another ancient Pokemon, this time Relicanth. I love Relicanth, and its shiny is pretty cool. Since Gen 4, shiny Relicanth has turned this cool teal-green color, with a lighter colored faceplate and markings. And it looked pretty similar in Gen 3, except that the teal-green color was replaced by a distinctive sky blue. And honestly, both shinies look amazing, and I can't really choose which one is better. Moving on, we've got the number 9 spot on our list, Shellgun. Shellgun is another Pokemon that's had more or less the same shiny since Gen 4. The outer shell turns a light green color, the eyes get yellow, and the markings on its leg turn a nice orange. But it was kinda different in Gen 3. The shell was much paler, and for some reason the legs turn a nice green color with deep red markings, and yet the face kinda stays the same. I get why they changed this one, but it's kind of too bad because the green legs really help tie it in with the rest of the bag online. And finally, we've got the number 10 spot on our list today, Regirock. Out of the entire Golem trio, Regirock is probably my favorite, and it's had an interesting shiny change. Back in Gen 3, shiny Regirock was a bright ochre color with red eyes, and while most Gen 3 shinies turned lighter over the years, this is the exception. Shiny Regirock kept getting darker until by the time Gen 6 rolled around, it was a deep chocolate brown color with cool yellow eyes. It seems like I've been loving the old Gen 3 shinies so far today, but in this instance, the change was very much for the better. And today, shiny Regirock is one of my favorite shinies of all time. Alright guys, that'll about wrap up today's video. There's only one place to go from here, and that's onward to Gen 4. So keep an eye out for that video in the near future, and as always guys, we are gonna see you on the next shiny.